Hey, how you doing, Chief? Hmm? That's right. Mhm. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Beach Haven Borough Council. It is Monday, November 14th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And please join us in the flag salute led by Mrs. Baumiller. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building on the Borough website and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Allen.
Here.
Mrs. Ball Miller.
Here.
Dr. Davis. Here. Mrs. Rutherford.
Here.
Mayor Lambert.
Here. At this time, I'd like to read a statement. As most of you know, our library has been closed unexpectedly, and hopefully this will address some of your questions and concerns. The Beach Haven Library Board of Trustees determined that an air quality and mold test were due based on the age of the building and the length of time between previous testing. As expected, the mold report in the basement came back indicating the need for immediate remediation. Unfortunately, the first and second floors weren't tested, but are areas of concern since there are vents going from the basement to the upper levels. We are currently awaiting those test results. The lead testing indicated definite areas of concern since the minimum acceptable levels were exceeded in several locations. Again, further testing is necessary to make sure the building is safe for both our employees and our patrons. This was a difficult decision and one not made lightly, but we felt it was necessary to err on the side of caution for everyone's safety. A thorough deep cleaning of the building is recommended, along with some painting and sealing. It is likely also that a new heating system will be required. On the advice of professionals, the building will remain closed until it is deemed safe by a certified environmental engineer. If it is possible, the building will be reopened briefly to allow patrons to exchange books before the major work begins, but that determination has yet to be made. We realize the inconvenience the closing of our beloved library has caused, but the board must consider everyone's safety first and foremost. It's unfortunate that this has become necessary, and every effort will be made to reopen as soon as possible. However, we feel it is important to address these problems immediately to ensure everyone's well-being and the building's future use. Please check the library website for updates. Thank you.
Thank you. So on the agenda at this time, we have our presentation. Michael Pagnata will be presenting a proposed project for Queen City East and Queen City West.
Good evening, everyone. Nick Talbach on behalf of the presenter, Queen City Partners. So I'm going to be very brief and not really do all of this.
Is the mic on?
Sites.
Mr. Talbach, is the mic
I
on?
don't think it is.
Okay, they can't hear you, they said.
I'm sorry. I can talk loud.
Then you have to take it off.
Let's see.
There we go.
It's on now. Again, for the record, Nick Talbach on behalf of Queen City Partners. So Mike Pagnata is going to present this. You know him well, he's an architect planner. This is a total of a 9-unit project, 2 of which are COA compliant in accordance with the requirements for Beach Haven that help satisfy that demand. The bottom floor is commercial. We think it's a dynamic project that will enhance Beach Haven's downtown, keep it vibrant and alive. It's only 7 units, and here's the best part. It's totally compliant with parking. It provides 24 parking spaces for the commercial and the residential. So we know that's an important concern. So it's compliant there, it's compliant in height, but let me have Mike walk you through it and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Tonight, we'll talk about how we call it the Queen City East and Queen City West. You may know it as the Foster site and the Brennan site, two sites that are in need of improvement. Architecturally, we approached the two projects, understanding the importance of the location and how they could be really successful links between other parts of downtown Beach Haven. So we look at it as one project, although it is two sites. The one project on Foster's is somewhat larger. It's four bedrooms, four units, excuse me, 3-bedroom units, and then one co-unit. And then on Brennan's, we have 3 units that are 3 bedrooms each and one co-unit. So the total is 7 market units and 2 co-units. Commercially, we wanted to create commercial space that was attractive, pedestrian friendly, and that would be commercially viable, right? So that's kind of a challenge when we take into consideration all the variables that we have to deal with at Beach Haven. We have a seasonal population and business that we have to deal with. We have to deal with pedestrian flow. We wanted to make it so it was friendly to pedestrians, even though we're dealing with flood restrictions. We made the projects as low as we could so that it encourages pedestrian traffic in and out from the site. And we're dealing with height. So we wanted to have high ceilings and still stay within the height limits. And I think we were successful in that. We wanted to approach both corners visually and architecturally so that both corners would have real visibility and strengthen and encourage people to walk from down the street to get into the two sites. The commercial spaces on Foster's is 3,000 square feet gross area for commercial, and then across the street 1,800 square feet in Brennan's. Like Nick said, we meet all park requirements. We have the 24 units total, and beside that, I think it's interesting because we're filling in some curbs on both sites, which are now currently they don't have curbs. We're creating, or at least facilitating, 13 additional off-site parking spots that Beach Haven would be able to use. So besides the 24 that we have that are required, there will be 13 additional on-street parking for other people. So I think that's really good. Architecturally, we wanted to create something that we would all be proud of aesthetically, and I thought that was very important. As architects, we approached the project, so we wanted it to fit comfortably within Beach Haven. We wanted the architecture to be that would look like a Beach Haven project. And so we used shingle siding, we're using Anderson windows, all low maintenance materials, but something that would have some authenticity to it. It kind of harkens back to some of the architecture for the old hotels in Beach Haven. We're trying to break up the massing, and we're trying to terrace it back so that it's not, we don't have this foreboding, huge facade in front. We kind of step it back. We have a metal roof, the pent roof that kind of goes around both projects from the first floor, and our signage is integrated into the structure itself, so we don't have just tacked on, lit up signage. We try to integrate it within the architecture itself. So on a whole, I think we have a successful architectural plan. I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I think it'll fit very, very comfortably, in downtown Beach Haven, and will add to the success of downtown Beach Haven. Again, the challenges that we had to meet, and we worked with council somewhat in the summer and tried to hit the hot buttons. And co-units, we're really happy to be able to provide some co-units for the people of Beach Haven. It's really hard to do when we're trying to sell units at whatever they're going to be, $200,000 or something. They have to be supported by the residential units. And the same can be said for the commercial. If we were to just build a standalone commercial building, we couldn't make that happen. The dollars just aren't there. Between the real estate prices, laying out the land, construction costs, interest rates, everything else. To have a viable commercial space, you have to be able to support that with the residential units above. So we think we've created a pretty good model that, for Beach Haven. If others, if you found it to be attractive and successful, I think it would be something that could be used on other sites. The mixture of the co-op, the commercial, and the residential units. I think we got as close as we could to meeting all the requirements. I think we did very, very well, and I'm very proud and happy with where we are today. Yeah. This, what you see up there right now is the Foster project, Queen City West. And this will be Brennan's. This one you can see, there's parking along the boulevard there. Whether it's going to be parallel or angled, that's up to you guys. But we will fill it in create new parking space there. So the projects kind of, they're similar in scale, similar in scope. They kind of are designed to be compatible with each other and to try to create an identity in those areas that are kind of lacking a visual benefit, I guess. That's what I got.
Start from questions, questions from the council?
No, because we have gone over this. Basically, Mr. Pagnot, I mean, you're right. Aesthetically, I think it is beautiful. I think you did a great job. How many variances will you need in order to successfully build this?
Variances, we met building coverage, we're way under building coverage. Building coverage, we're way under. Lot coverage, when you count our parking material, would put us over by a certain percentage. Jim could better speak about that. And we're using a material that would be porous, right? That can percolate, not using something that's that won't be able to, absorb water. That would be the only, that's that and the density.
And density, I was going to ask you about the density, yeah.
The density, when we talk about the market units, we're at 18 units per acre, which is your units. When we add the COA units, it puts us to 23 units per acre.
Mhm.
So the market units are at your 18, and then when we accommodate the COA requests and COA need, then we're pumped up to 23 units per acre. That's it.
Okay.
Those are the only variances. We need coverage, we need height, we need parking, and all these different things. It's I don't want to say it's miraculous, but I'm very proud to be able to do that.
And I will give you a lot of credit because you came before us several times. We kept going back with what we wanted to see. But I got to tell you, I still have a problem with this because of the density. And, unfortunately, it seems that Victoria Rose has now become the measuring stick in this town. And everybody compares like this was less dense. And it is 18 units per acre. That's how many units are there on, that's got to be less than half an acre, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, as
Yes, close to the microphone, you can. Yes, exactly.
as Mike said, without the COA units, we're at the 18 units per acre. With the COA units, we're at 23.1 units per acre. We add those two in. The impervious coverage is around 95%. The building itself is going to be about 60% coverage. Now, we believe we can comply with the intent of the ordinance by providing the parking areas with a porous paver with a recharge system below it, like an area to store storm water below the parking areas and anywhere that we're going to put impervious outside of the building footprint to bring the coverage limit kind of into alignment with what the intent of the ordinance of the 60% max provides. And overall, I think the Brennan site plus the Foster site, currently the impervious on both of them is probably in excess of 80%. So I think we're going to do a good job in reducing the stormwater runoff on the sites by providing the porous paver with the storage system below.
And I know that the impervious unit was, or excuse me, the COA unit was not your idea. That came from a council member. And that's kind of what the problem is. And I'm going to go back to an old, and this wasn't actually your issue, but the fact that when we do include COA units, that's what makes our buildings become so big and so beyond what our land use laws, indicate they should be, I should say. And again, I mean, in this recent election, the whole thing was overdevelopment. You're not over by a lot. My only request would be, I like your architecture, I like your design, I like what you've done, but it's just still too much. And my whole platform that I ran on and what the most recent one was, overdevelopment, let's go back to Beach Haven land use laws. I know the affordable housing, everybody gets into that, but And that was not you, in all fairness, that was not you. At the end of the day, the affordable housing is kind of one of those funny things because it's affordable for whom? We actually had a borough worker who didn't qualify. And, we're trying to attract workers and everything else, and yet it's not working as far as what Beach Haven would like to see. Again, that's not your problem. You don't control the lottery system. We don't control the lottery system. So when we put these units in, we really don't know who's going to get them. And we were hoping for EMTs, police, fire, first aid. Didn't happen with the other ones. And you have no say in that either. I know these properties were eyesores. You're right. And the only thing is I will say that with the gas station, in all fairness, even though it's been sitting there as a derelict for several years, it was only cleared by the DEP about a year ago. So nobody could have done anything on that site until they got that approval regardless. I just have a problem. I think Beach Haven is at a critical point. We are overbuilt. Parking is an issue, all these buildings coming in, and I think this is our chance to get it right. And I would just request that our land use laws, even if we have to go out now, affordable housing is something that is a concern. And I know a couple of people have approached me with different ideas that maybe we can accomplish that without making builders include it and trying to get something that way. Because at the end of the day, we get one affordable unit and the town for decades is going to be looking at a building that is beyond what it should be. And like I said, I have no problem with your architecture, everything else, but I am concerned. I really, really want to see everybody get back to our land use laws. And you have tandem parking on that, by the way?
No.
No, you don't. Good. Okay, thank you, because that's another one that I get upset about. Regular,
My
okay.
question is, in what ways would you consider that overdeveloped? I know we use the variable or the term density,
Mhm.
but if we're meeting the parking, we're meeting the coverage, we're meeting the height,
You're talking to the mic.
if we're meeting all of the bulk requirements, with the exception of density, density I can see is important if we didn't meet parking, right? So if we didn't meet parking, then, the number of units would make a difference. In this case, if we're meeting the parking, and we're meeting all the other bulk requirements, I don't see how density should really come into play. I understand it's important for other projects. I'm not saying that it should be thrown away altogether. But in this case, maybe it's not as important as being able to satisfy the 12 units and the parking and the commercial, space that's really much needed. So I certainly absolutely respect what you're trying to do. And I think you're doing a great job in trying to rein things in. I think this reflects a project that you may want to consider and think about when it comes to density. Maybe density needs to be adjusted a little bit when we have a situation. I don't see how in the future we're going to be able to satisfy COA units without some adjustment or somewhat being valuable, some of these variables to the density.
I think you're right about the COA because, eventually that may become, but that's why I would like to look for other avenues. And I know somebody did approach me about having some ideas, but it was pre-election and it was a candidate and I didn't want to speak about that pre-election because I didn't think it was appropriate. But I think we have other means that we can look at. Like I said, basically you have met all, but we are still going along with the precedent that it's okay to be over. And I just can't get on board with that. That's all I have to say about that.
Can I just make a couple of comments?
Sure.
Thank you. So I just want to point out that we're actually looking to operate under redevelopment law, which is totally separate law from zoning.
Hmm.
So you don't really necessarily have to consider the current zoning to do redevelopment. So just conceptually, that makes us very different than just looking at zoning law and we have to follow zoning. You have really, theoretically, not theoretically, you can have a blank slate here and look at current conditions at those sites and determine what's best. Now, we have 2 COA units out of 9. They're both 1 bedroom. There's no density on the commercial. It's just on the residential number of units. I believe, and what Mike said is bulk, and I've been doing this for 35 years, defined by, there's number of standards. Density is one of those standards, although most towns don't have density for residential, but some did. But it's also defined by bulk and setback. So the coverage of the building itself is 60-something%, 75 is permitted. So from a visual standpoint, this building is smaller than what it can be. Could be bigger with more, say, commercial or bigger residential units, less units, but more bedrooms. So from a bulk standpoint, it compensates for the density, in my view, that with smaller building. Two, if we took the two one-bedroom units out of those buildings, I defy anybody to tell the difference between the buildings. You won't see it. You just won't see it. It's not visually perceptible. So this hits a lot of marks. And Mike and I had a lot of discussions. How do we do the parking? How do we do the commercial? How do we do the affordable? And how do we make money? Because they're all part of the equation. The developer can't make money, they're not doing the project, and nothing gets done. So I think, and I don't want to call this a compromise because it's really not.
Mhm.
It's a win-win in terms of all the competing goals. You want a vibrant downtown, this delivers that. You want parking, this delivers that. I mean, it has all the parking required, 24 spaces, and it helps resolve your issue with the lawsuit that was settled. So it hits a lot of points, and you have to really attractive looking buildings that fit in with the community. So as someone who's been doing land use for 35 years, it kind of hits what land use and good planning is about. And yes, it's over the density, but not in a perceptible way. It's just a calculation on a piece of paper. It's the building mass. So we could theoretically have a building that's 75% of the lot coverage and lower density, but the building would be bigger. The density would be lower, the building was bigger. So I think what people don't want to see is massive structures. And these are not massive structures. So I don't want to belabor the point. That's the argument. Thank you.
Again, I think, in my way of thinking, it's about precedent, and we are continuing this trend. You mentioned rehab, redevelopment, and that does give the developer the right to roll all these D variances and everything else into a package. And when we talk about affordable housing, we have to remember that that does not supersede local zoning law.
So it doesn't give us the right to do anything. It gives us the right to request.
Right.
You have to
Right.
adopt a plan. And if you adopt a plan under redevelopment law, that supersedes local zoning. So that's a legislative decision as elected officials. We're not making that decision. So it is changing the zoning, but it is done all the time for good reason throughout the state of New Jersey, and throughout really the United States. Ultimately, that's your decision, but it's not giving us D variances because you're going to make it all permissible. There's no D variances. I mean,
Because it's getting rolled in.
well, yes, but
Yeah, there is, but it's getting rolled in.
by you as the governing body in your discretion, whether you think that we're proposing as an overall package benefits the community. That's your decision. I'm not an elected official here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I said my piece.
I'd like to speak. I think we have a popular government and the mayor has one vote, so this is up to the council. I personally am afraid with inflation coming and the cost of living supply is going up, that we're going to have land sitting around looking pretty awful for the next so many years. And I think the opportunity to have a complex of this quality in town is an asset to be changed. We can sit there and say we don't like affordable housing, we don't like how it's done, but we are required to have it. And there are lawsuits that can come about if we do not meet our affordable housing goals. We have to be cognizant of that. We have 5 affordable housing units in Beach Haven. Of the 5, most of them are occupied by people that have resided in Beach Haven that could not afford to live here if they couldn't get the affordable housing. So you can sit there and say, yes, we had somebody in the borough that got turned down, we're not getting enough EMTs, but we are getting people that couldn't live here if they didn't have affordable housing. We have a veteran who's always lived here. We have a person that works in town and has a child and wife. And we have a couple of people that work here in town. So most of the people that have gotten the affordable housing are people that have a connection to Beach Haven. Yes, it is a lottery, and yes, we are required to follow the rules of the state. But so far, I think we have won that lottery. We have many, many people on a list that want single room, bedroom, affordable housing units. And we need young people here. We need people. We don't want to just have a community of multimillionaires, and that's what we're turning into. So I know there are other opportunities for affordable housing. When I've been on the council since for the last 12 years, and we did met with a lot of state people because we needed to comply with affordable housing. And we investigated a lot of other options, including a large facility for battered women. I mean, we looked at so many options, and believe me, they're not really feasible. And I don't know that Beach Haven really wants to get into the affordable housing business. I mean, it's a lot easier if you can sell these affordable housing units. Person's not going to make money, or they might be a policeman that starts at the lower level and they're qualified. And maybe in 3 or 4 years, the policeman's salary goes up and they wouldn't qualify at that time, but they're not kicked out of their affordable housing unit. But they get to live there as long as they want to. When they sell it, they have to sell it at a very low cost. So another affordable housing person can get in there. It's a 30-year commitment with affordable housing. So, they aren't getting the benefits that one gets when they buy a house and they can sell it at a much higher market value because the real estate value has gone up. But we are obligated to have this. And the idea that this meets the restrictions without the affordable housing is going to look the same, and yet you don't want to put the affordable housing in because you don't really like it. But literally just saying that in public could trigger a lawsuit. That would cost Beach Haven a lot of money. So I think we really do have to think positively in that respect. My other feeling is we are going to lose our business district if we don't try to comply by having multiple use buildings. We need the business district. It's what makes Beach Haven desirable. People want to come here more so than a lot of other places on the island because they can walk to places, they can shop, they can eat out, they can go out for breakfast. They like that. People like that. And I hate to see that go. I mean, if this is turned down by the council, I really feel that what's going to happen there is you get another single home like was built on where the bank used to be. So to me, I feel that it's a really positive plan. I think it's going to do a lot for Beach Haven. It's going to enable people to have very productive businesses that they can own by owning their business space. They're actually paying less for it than what it would cost to rent the space. And when you think about that, the rentals are so high here. So that's another really good option. And also it increases the value of that property so that the town does get more tax revenues. And then the other argument to that as well, now we have to have more services, not really that much more services than what we're having. So it does also serve as a tax benefit for the town. But aesthetically, in my opinion, it's very attractive. It certainly is more attractive than what is there now. And people don't realize that the land values are so expensive now that anybody that wants to do any kind of development is not going to be able to do it if he's or she is so restricted. And I mean, otherwise it's to me another single family house, and Beach Haven is going to turn into just an extension of Long Beach Township. So that's my feeling, and I have no, I understand how people feel. I liked Beach Haven better when I was a kid. But it's changed and it's going to continue to change, and it's still a wonderful place to live. And so I'm totally in support.
It's just a presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have any comment? I mean, my comment really is I do like this project. I expressed that to Mr. Pagnata. I see that regardless of what we do here is increasing density. So if we have the opportunity to have affordable units, and we have the opportunity to be on the parking, we have a place that looks appropriate. I like it. And
I just want to clear something up. It's, when we're saying 7 market rate, 2 COA units, and it's only, 2 more units, and they're COA, so we have to do this. the only way that you get 18 units per acre is if you do COA. If you don't have affordable housing units, then you revert back to original zoning laws, and that's one residential per 5,000 square feet. So there is, let's just be clear, in order to get 18 units per acre, you have to have affordable housing. If not, then you revert back to the original zoning law. So this is not, only 23 units per acre. We have an increase in density, and our increase in density is 18 units per acre. And for some reason, if that number is not feasible for a developer, then what number is? Because, 23 units per acre, 45 units per acre. Right now on the books, it's 18 units per acre, and that's what I'm dealing with. That's what we put together in 2017 and have never followed that yet. So what was the whole point of putting that number into play in 2017 if our previous two multi-use developments never followed that number? So until someone can explain to me why we need to increase that number or why that number was put there originally, that's the number what I'm going with on the books.
Well, I just briefly, we probably should have changed that number originally. That was a mistake. Although, and maybe Emily could address this, but because most of these units were working under the auspices of redevelopment, because there were a lot of perks for the developer, et cetera, we figured there was some flexibility and gave us more flexibility. So probably we should have changed that density level at that point in time. We didn't.
Yeah,
And I would vote to change it now.
yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't involved in development of that original 18 units per acre standard. My observation is simply exactly what you said. No one has been able to meet that 18 units per acre. So clearly that's not appropriate to provide for the affordable housing need that you have. And seeing that no one can meet that standard, that, as you said, is a clear indication that it doesn't work. And so you have an opportunity either through changing your ordinance or through redevelopment. And that's a decision, as Mr. Tavakia said, for the legislative body. So, but that's the observation that I've made, is that satisfying that 18 units per acre has seemingly been impossible for a developer for a number of reasons.
Might I say that at that time, land prices were extremely low compared to today. And what happened is when that ordinance went through, we changed that. The land prices started to go to skyrocket. And basically, it just doesn't work today. It's just not feasible. And I remember meeting with the owner of the person, the old post office building, which was turned into what Bill Burris did with his body wheel, which I think is very attractive. But basically, I met with him and a realtor. That place had been on the market for like 7 years. They were desperate. They what can we do? What can we put there with the town? We were getting practically no tax revenue for it. And that sort of started this process. But very rapidly after we put in this, we met with all these affordable housing units and we had to meet the requirement. And when we did, the land values started to just go crazy. And in the last couple of years, they've even gone more crazy than back, say, 4 or 5 years ago. So it doesn't work. You're not going to get affordable housing units and you're not going to get businesses if you stick to that.
Emily,
But also, I think what's a little different, Nancy, about those spotted whale developments, they're 2-bedroom units. So now we have like 7 3-bedroom units. It's not like families are going to be moving in and possibly buying all of those 7. They're going to be rental units. So you have 3-bedroom rental units. You're going to rent to 15 people. You have 105 people. It's in that area at one time. That's too much for me. I talked about 2 bedrooms. That was off the table as well. So at least in the spotted whale, they were 2-bedroom units. It's a little bit less people. We're just like busting at the seams.
Emily, was the 18 units per acre, that was part of the Mount Laurel agreement, wasn't it?
That was part of the settlement agreement and the ordinance that was adopted.
But wasn't that a state guideline? No,
No,
that was
it is
not.
It is not. It is a legislative guideline that the borough adopted.
But it was a legislative guideline.
It was a governing body decision, yes.
But where did that figure come from specifically?
As I said at the beginning, I was not involved in that. so
Sherry, do you
I-
know where that figure came from?
It wasn't mandated by the state, I don't think. I
My,
mean,
my understanding of it is that that was the hope, that, they would be able to attract development and with affordable housing associated with it. It just, the reality is that it does not work.
Well, yeah,
And
I-
so unfortunately,
I think the number was just out of a hat, and we didn't do any kind of evaluation to see what it actually cost the developer to do these things. It wasn't a decision based on, fact.
because we keep saying that they can't do it. Because I heard there were a couple buyers for the bank building that were going to do something far less there. So I don't know if it's a matter that they can't or they weren't required to. At this point, I mean, we saw 20 units per half an acre. We see what that looks like. And that is not a direction I want to see Beach Haven going in. And that was my platform running. And I know two of the candidates that just got in office, that was their platform over development. So I don't think that's an unrealistic number. And I'm just concerned that, who can't make money? Well, there are options.
I don't know that it's economics.
Mhm.
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it
Mhm.
and developing the numbers. But the 18 units per acre, based off of the attempts to satisfy that and the inability to do so, to me, it seems like 18 is unrealistic.
Well, then maybe at this point, we should table the project and find out whether or not we're going to increase it or not. Truthfully, I mean, like I said, I'm just concerned that, well, I'm just concerned, excuse me, that we keep extending in this town. And then the next project comes in, well, you did it for them, you got to do it for us. And I know that wasn't your decision, but anyhow, anybody else down here like to?
Sure. I think it's a kind of a catch-22. Here we have a building that's come closer than any of the previous buildings that approached town redevelopment, affordable housing project. And it's still too dense according to the guidelines. So I have to agree with them. The guidelines are flawed. I mean, land use law, you're on the land use board and you're continually hearing the same variance over and over again. You re-examine the ordinance guiding that variance. It's a problem. It's not working. I agree. I think that the project is a very nice building. And, I was on council back in the Morrison's project of land use for Tory Rose. So I was I can see both sides of this argument. Too dense, too many people, versus if we don't do it, it's going to be single family homes, which is something that the council's been very vocal about, not losing the viability of the businesses. So it's a very difficult decision to make. And I personally, after being in those two previous projects, before they were really vetted by the community at large, we got an assigned redevelopment. So I was hopeful that tonight, presenting the project, getting feedback from the community, what they wanted to hear, what to see, then I think this, given the nature of our agreement with 18 units per acre, is the closest, best design we're going to see in that agreement. But again, as Jamie said, we're busting the seams. We all live with it. We saw it. Very few places left you can do anything really outside of these two lots of the scope. I like the fact that it provides parking and gives 13 additional offsite parking. That's a very congested area of town, so that'll be a relief. But at the same time, I'm very interested to hear what the community at large thinks, because we haven't had the option in the past with project of this nature.
I think, would you like to hear from the community now?
Sure, yes.
public comments.
Okay, starting with the room as always, please identify yourself, name, address. Anybody in the room like to speak about this? No. Mr. Hudson? Nope.
Sorry if I-
Name and address, that's all.
My name is Bill Hudson, Lori's on in North. As Nancy was saying, talking about the business district, as I've told you before, personally and in front of the council, I get thousands of phone calls at our motel, just about 2 miles away, which the average phone call calling our motel says, how close are you to Beach Haven? They don't ask us how close are we to Acme, the golf course, to the municipal building. They don't ask us any of that. They ask us, how close are you to Beach Haven? That's what we're here talking about, keeping the business district. Because it's critical to everybody's housing, it's critical to everybody's how expensive or to keep your property values. And I think this does that. It keeps more of the business district. It's a beautiful project, and it certainly keeps more of the business district that we're trying to keep there, to keep our business district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ed Freeman. I live at 110 North Atlantic Avenue in Beach Haven. I've also been a business owner in town, Pearl Street Market. My family and I started, I think it was 22 years ago, and subsequently sold. So I'm here really to speak from a whole different standpoint, the standpoint of business. And it's all but impossible for your typical small business owner to start a business in Beach Haven unless he's extremely well funded. This project gives the opportunity, because the retail space is subsidized in effect by the residential space above. It gives the opportunity for a business owner to begin a retail business, 1,000 square foot or thereabout, brand new construction on street level in the center of town for a number, something like $450,000, $500,000 purchase price. It ties him to the community. It makes him a part of the community rather than a renter that after 2 tough years folds up shop, moves on, and you get different shops every 2 years. And it allows a small business owner whose most of our retirements are the equity in our real estate at the end of the day. We hopefully make a living on an annual basis and then someday sell the real estate, an opportunity to participate in the appreciation that we've seen in real estate in Long Beach Island, and specifically Beach Haven. So I think this is a great opportunity. I think, I happen to like the architecture as well. I think it's an addition to the town, but I really like the opportunity for retail space to be there on street level.
Thank you. Scott?
Scott Cunningham, 6th Street, Beach Haven. I've got quite a few things to say tonight. This is not very good. And you do not live in the center of Beach Haven, but you're a realtor, so this amount of units, I'm sure you're going to sell a couple of them. And you're at Lori's Island Inn.
Scott, address the council, please.
All right.
Thank you.
Lori's Island Inn is not from Beach Haven. I live in Beach Haven. Dan, you're leaving. I appreciate your position, everyone's position tonight. Thank you very much. I disagree with some and I agree with others. You are leaving. I don't think you should be voting on this tonight. This could be shelved until the new administration arrives.
We're not voting.
We're just
presenting.
all right. I'm just telling you how I feel personally. We're going to do this property across the street from me. I live at 6th Street. There's no parking. They've eliminated it. People park alongside of my building or in front of it and leave their car there for 3 weeks. Across the street, they have 2-bedroom condos. 2-bedroom, it's advertised, sleeps 10. This is gonna happen here too. The cars, if you have a business, you have 2 employees, that's 2 cars. And what happens if 3 people come shopping in the morning? You now have 5 cars. They might meet the restrictions, but we're gonna put 50 cars on the street. We've already got the problem on 6th Street to 5th Street. Now we're gonna go right down to 3rd Street. It's a beautiful building. Doesn't belong here. It's way too big, 100% lot coverage. It looks like that, it's gigantic. 2 weeks ago, I was running for office. I did not succeed, and I'm glad you did. And I'm happy for what the results are. We ran, and everyone was concerned about no parking and too much construction. I mean, the density it's just unbelievable where I live. You're a businessman. Imagine if someone parked their cars on your street, left them there for 3 weeks because there's no other parking. There's nothing you can do about it because it's legal, but welcome to your worst nightmare. I mean, there's no I have to load my truck. I got to go up the block to do it. This past week, we talked about low income and we need more people bringing into our community. This week, a apartment building on 2nd Street sold for just over $1 million, 4 units in this apartment building. We're talking about low income. This was an opportunity that the town I have no idea why we didn't purchase it. I don't want to take anyone else's time, but this project is way too big. Scale it back and let the next administration deal with this. That's why everyone's running here. I appreciate all your positions. Thank you very much, and you have a good night.
Thank you. Yeah. Steve?
Hello, Steve Steiner, 521 Amber Street in Beach Haven. I don't live near this project. And in fact, this is the first I've heard about this project. I heard that it was going to be happening. And you know what? It's not too big. They've explained. It's at 60% density coverage. It's at 18, except for the fact that we have these extra affordable housing units. Now, density. What are we really afraid of with density? Is it parking, or is it we're worried we're going to be walking too close to other people? I think we're worried about parking. And they've got not only the required parking, they've got additional 13 spots. And we're really talking about 10 weeks, aren't we? Is that what we're really worried about regarding density? Because if we're worried about density at this time of year, there's no reason to be worried about density at this time of year. It's very simple. We're talking about 10 weeks when it's busy. And frankly, if those people have parking and they're at 3rd Street and they're at 5th Street, they're going to be walking. They're not going to be moving their cars. And so we're not going to have the parking problem that would exist should these people live elsewhere and come into town. So the fact that they have created parking that is adequate according to our rules, and they're not asking for any variances other than, as I understand, the fact that they had to put this the 2 1-bedroom units in order to make their entire project financially viable. And we're going to have people that are living in those places and walking places rather than pulling their cars out and driving 4 blocks and trying to find another parking place. They're not going to do that. They're going to walk. So it's not too big. This is, as you said, Dan, it's the closest anybody has come to actually complying with absolutely everything that we require. And the fact that they have to do the affordable housing is what ticks them a little bit over in terms of density, but that density really is kind of a phantom number here. We're talking about people that are going to be walking. We're talking about people if we have any density issue at all, we're talking about 10 weeks a year out of 52. So that's like less than 20% of our entire year. And to turn these two beautiful projects down for that minute situation, that minute problem of a period of time, I think would be a real travesty to lose this kind of commercial ability for that small little problem.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I
Mrs.
would like to
Piper?
speak, but I cannot. It won't let me raise my hand. I
All right,
apologize.
hold on,
apologize.
Kitty. We're gonna do the room first, okay? Thank you.
Eileen for 401 Center Street, Beach Haven. Just a quick summary because I won't be redundant. It looks like it is a good project. Affordable commercial space, housing, parking, additional parking, and an architect and builder that has come in several times and made adjustments and has listened to you. So maybe, and I heard you all say tonight, maybe you have to go back and look at that number of 18, and that was just a bad number picked out of a hat. So there might be some evidence-based or some other things for us to look at to have that number be better. And another small thought in the back of my mind, when the gentleman mentioned that 2-bedroom apartment sleeping 10, there are other beach communities that look at their rentals. And if they're getting a crazy increase in numbers of people in the homes, they apply to the town looks at the unit and tells them how many they're able to put in it. So, maybe we're missing something that is creating that crazy density, and you wouldn't want to pass over a great aesthetically pleasing looking project for something that's a problem, regardless of whether we put this here or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? No? Okay, Zoom.
Jim Lambert?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Jim Lambert here, 516 North Atlantic Avenue in Beach Haven. I just want to read a little bit from the Borough Master Plan. It's the land use chapter, page 17, under the heading Affordable Housing Overlay District. The sentence starts with, as a means to address the need for affordable housing in the community, the borough recently adopted ordinance 2017-11C. And that ordinance goes on to say that the affordable housing overlay zone will regulate said development through bulk and design standards. However, the borough's underlying zoning will still be in effect. This will allow affordable housing to be approved under local ordinance and regulations without detriment to the existing borough zoning plan and ordinance. Additionally, the overlay zone will preclude the need for a rezoning on suitable and developable properties along the North Bay Ave corridor. And just be advised that this ordinance evolved to become chapter 212-29 of the Beach Haven land use regs. And once again, the regulations clearly say that there's 18 units per acre. And hotels are only allowed to be 13 units per acre. So I don't know what could possibly justify a higher density than the allowable hotel density. In addition to the density, the ordinance also says there's a minimum rear setback of 25 feet, a maximum lot coverage of 75%. Okay, moving on. One last consideration too regarding FAR. If you read chapters 212-13, 212-14, and 212-21C, it clearly stipulates any multi-story residential structure cannot exceed 50% FAR. And there's no exception anywhere in the Beach Haven land use regs for a mixed use in the BD zone. In closing, I want to say that the DEP, the New Jersey DEP, will be raising the regulated 100-year flood elevation by approximately 2 feet sometime in the spring of 2023. And ask yourself why. New Jersey right now is second as a state only to Florida with the number of homes at risk of coastal flooding in the coming years. And Ocean County is the #1 county in New Jersey for that same risk. A redevelopment plan with multiple D and multiple C variances cannot be consistent with the borough master plan. And the borough does not have to allow variances in a redevelopment plan for anyone, any reason. So please do not deviate from the Beach Haven land use regs, because there's no language in the New Jersey municipal land use law that says a developer has to make money on this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie Snyder. Go ahead and unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record.
Catherine Snyder, 120 Berkeley Avenue, Beach Haven.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that glitch. I do think that that this project is too dense. I agree with Ed Freeman in that I would love to see business owners be able to purchase a business without having to pay over $1 million for the property. And I applaud that and I encourage that. I think Mr. Pagnotta can work on this project and make it less dense. I don't think, I still question whether or not these properties, I'm not convinced that these properties should have qualified for redevelopment in the first place, especially the Foster's property. I respectfully disagree with Nancy on that. I understand that we want a vibrant community and I applaud that and I support that. And I understand that we need development. I just think that this project is too dense and I'd like to see what Mr. Pagnotta can do to come back to the drawing board a little bit. I think that the design is attractive enough, but I don't think we need to settle for that. I don't know why both projects looked exactly the same. I don't know what the siding is. I think some of the roof pitches could be higher. I think some of the front elements could definitely be enhanced and improved upon. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement here, and I hope to visit this in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl Anderson.
Carl Anderson, 509 Center Street. I'd like to thank Mayor Lambert for standing up for what she ran on. I think she makes great points on the effects that this has had in Beach Haven, these types of developments. To me, this is an egregious invasion on Beach Haven. I think that the lawyer's statement of that they would comply with to the intent of some of the things in variances tells you an awful lot about how this project will go, much like others in Beach Haven have gone. The last two elections, voters resoundingly voted for candidates that ran on a platform of no overdevelopment. Yet here we are again, having this same argument. I think it's time to send a message to the smooth talking lawyers and developers that bring these type of projects here to Beach Haven, that this is not what we want. And you can pack your suitcase and go north on the boulevard and come back to Beach Haven when you have something that's reasonable to deal with. We have a message to say no variances. We have a weak land use board that has allowed more variances than probably any other town on the island. And we are reaping those benefits, as you can see, because we all talk about how Beach Haven has just been run over. I hear it all the time that, you know, how people say, oh, I love Beach Haven so much. Well, if you love Beach Haven and you like this type of project, you're a hypocrite, because this is what's killing Beach Haven. This is a massive project. It affects both sides of the boulevard. It will change the downtown of Beach Haven forever. You can talk about all the business change you want. We have a great, vibrant business community this day. We have a council that bent over backwards during COVID to help all these businesses and allow them to do a job and operate and make money and be successful. We have tools to do that moving forward in the future. We do not need to put this COA stuff in there. That the COA deal in Beach Haven is a complete myth. Everything that you've heard that you think is a benefit, with much respect to my friend, Mrs. Taggart Davis, we are the only borough on the island that has it. We are the only borough that's in compliance now. We have enough that we're all good. We don't need any more. The only reason we need more is because we're gonna have more development. This is not the way to proceed in that area. we have volunteer fire company, volunteer first aid. Those people are so stressed out as it is already. These two types of projects is only going to put more stress on that infrastructure, the electrical, the water, the public works, everything that Beach Haven has to offer to its residents. This is beyond and above the scope of anything that what we have now can handle. I think this type of development is just what the candidates ran on to stop. And it's time that we finally look at ourselves and say, enough is enough. No more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nobody else on Zoom? Okay, well, thank you. Mr. Pagnotta, your team, thank you very much for the presentation. And obviously we will be talking about it. Appreciate you coming tonight.
Did you have any other comments you wanted to make to any of the comments that were made by the public? Bonnie, do you have your hand up? Did you want to speak?
Is it possible? I know that it sounds like it's closing out.
Bonnie Wells?
Yeah, she'd like.
Bonnie wants it, yeah, Bonnie.
Oh, hi. Yeah, my name is Bonnie Wells. I live at 333 Pearl Street in Beach Haven. And I think I understand there are two sides to this, and both sides do have points. I guess my concern mostly is I'm very interested in the beautification of Beach Haven. And right now we have probably one of the best design architects I know, and I've been in this business for about 35 years. And he's willing to present something and work with people to do something that could be amazing and add to the beautification of the area. And by adding to that, what ends up happening is everyone in Beach Haven does benefit from it. When you're talking about the mixed use and things like that, like, again, you have people that can come into the commercial, you have people that can, be renting and feed into the economy when they are down here as guests. The fact that he did stay to the 60% coverage was difficult. And you can see that with the price of land right now and trying to accommodate everyone, he is making every effort to make that happen. So I'm excited about the project. And I'm looking at like Shoes for You that still has like what is that? A shower curtain in the window for 3 years or something, where we're so stuck on keep Beach Haven the way it is, but you're keeping condemned buildings as they are. And it's not adding to the beautification, it's detracting from it. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for your time and wrap up here. I listened to all the comments, and I appreciate everybody's concern and respect, and I'm really concerned for the overdevelopment of Beach Haven. Obviously, I don't believe this is an overdevelopment at all. I think this is a unicorn. I think this is a project that will best meet the situation that you guys have created as far as regulations and requirements for new development. Financially, this is like a bunt single. Nobody's going to make any money on this project. Believe me, we're trying to get out of this thing and satisfy as many of the needs the mutual needs that we have. I don't have to do a project like this. I could do single family homes forever and I'd never have to do something like this. Taking on this kind of a project is not easy. I'm trying to help Beach Haven become what it can be. You look at those two sites, they're eyesores. Nobody's going to do a better job on those two sites. This is the best that you're going to get here. When you talk about Victoria Rose, the density there is 42 units, 42. We're talking about 23. That's a far cry from 42. So we don't ever want to be compared to that project. And we meet the parking, and we meet the height, and we meet the coverage. This is the best you're going to get. This is a unicorn. Maybe you guys haven't seen enough of the bad projects that can come up before you guys, but they're coming. This is the good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cash receipts in the current fund account for the period of October 1st to October 31st was $2,836,410.39. Cash disbursements in the current fund account for the month of October total $3,034,617.67. The cash balance in the current fund account as of this period totaled $16,217,186.19. Cash receipts in the water utility account for the period of October 1st to October 31st were $294,804.40. Cash disbursements in the water utility account for the month of October totaled $74,740.40. And the cash balance in the water utility account as of October 31st was $4,545,085.50, submitted by our treasurer, Sherry Bowler. I have minutes this evening for approval without formal reading, the regular minutes of October 11th and the agenda meeting minutes of October 27th, 2022.
Everybody have a chance to review those? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ordinance 2022-21C, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 173, solid waste, Article 4, private carters in the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to regulate and prohibit solid waste collection before 6 a.m. Final reading.
Since this is the final reading, it is open to the public. Would anybody like to comment on this issue? No? Anybody on Zoom? All right, seeing none, close the floor to public comment. Is there any comment among the board? No? Okay, is there a motion to approve 2022-21C?
Second. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-22, bond ordinance authorizing various capital improvements and acquisitions in and for the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, appropriating $1,449,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,079,000 bonds or notes to finance part of the cost thereof. Final reading.
Again, final reading, so it's open to public. Anybody in the room like to speak to this?
Do you want me to go down the list again?
Lori, did you have a?
I can go
Okay,
over them.
yeah, here we go.
Okay, so the first item on the list is the New Jersey DOT Road Improvement Project for Station Plaza and 6th Street. We are projecting $400,000 for that project, and we're also anticipating $315,000 in grants. $10,000 for acquisition of lifeguard equipment for the use at the beaches throughout the borough. $150,000 to replace or repair bulkheads throughout the borough, in particular Pelham Avenue. $350,000 for acquisition of a trash truck for the Department of Public Works. $35,000 for acquisition of a pickup truck for the Department of Public Works. $75,000 for acquisition of a truck, SUV, or other vehicle for the police department. $20,000 for additional acquisition and installation of additional tide valves. $60,000 for park improvements such as lighting and fencing upgrades to borough parks. $75,000 for replacement of piping and other refurbishment of the fuel tanks. $84,000 to upgrade and replace the traffic signals at 6th and 3rd Streets. And finally, the $190,000 for resurfacing and restriping the parking lot located at Taylor Avenue, and creation of additional parking areas and improvements to existing parking areas along Delaware Avenue.
Okay, now, would anybody like to comment on anything? No? On Zoom?
No.
Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve 2022-22?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-23, bond ordinance authorizing various water system improvements by the water utility in and for the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, appropriating $270,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $270,000 bonds or notes to finance part of the cost thereof. Final reading. The projects include $35,000 for road and trench repairs throughout the borough, $200,000 for repair or resurface of the existing water reservoir
and 35,000 for acquisition of a pickup truck for the water utility.
Knowing that, anybody in the room? No? Pardon?
Anytime there is a repair done on a line or a lateral, it leaves a patch, sticks out into the road, that's a trench that sometimes will settle. So we go around town and we can fix some of those settled trenches that just occur throughout town.
Anyone else? Anybody on Zoom?
No.
No? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve 2022-23?
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
yes.
Mrs. Rutherford? Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-24, bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 2020-01 of the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, finally adopted on February 18th, 2020, to amend the purposes for which such bond ordinance was finally adopted. Bond ordinance would now read, bond ordinance authorizing the construction of a skate park and recreational area by and for the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, appropriating $325,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $309,000 bonds or notes to finance part of the cost thereof. Final reading.
Okay, it's final reading. It will be open to public comment. I would just like to say, I get it. I understand. I just, with all the expenses the borough's facing right now, I'm just not comfortable. But anybody else in the council wish to?
Sure. The only reason we're doing this is we're renaming, it's not new appropriation, we're renaming one that was known officially in 2020. So we're not adding anything to really our financial position. The reason we're doing this is due to the cost of building materials and everything going up. We've been snaked it a few times with other projects substantially, that if and when this becomes feasible, we have the ordinance and the funds appropriated in place to proceed faster and wind up with a more expensive project. Also, that being said, the goal of this project, we've stated from the beginning, minimize its impact to taxpayers. And we've identified members of the local community that are willing to organize a fundraising campaign to donate towards this particular project. So regardless of whether they fundraise or not, we have to appropriate money to the budget. So it's kind of, it looks worse than it is, is what I'm trying to say. You know, it's just giving us the opportunity to do it and make all the dominoes fall into the right position.
And may I say something? This doesn't, I mean, we still haven't come up with where it's gonna be. There's still many issues that have to be discussed and settled. This is just allowing the money to be there in case we decide to go ahead. Yes, so I know that I get a lot of calls about this, so I know there's a lot of people that are concerned. We are not at this moment approving the skateboard park. We're only appropriating money. And in a way, that's a good thing because when that money is appropriated, if they need something in another park, we can sort of take the money out of that. But we're not actually spending the money.
And we're not actually building. I know it reads that way, but we're not actually building.
No, I understand that. I just, like I said, I think there's so many variables and unknowns, but anybody in the public like to speak to this? Mr. Anderson?
I have a question. Have we looked into the skate park insurance? What it would cost?
Yes. Dan, if you want to hang?
Yeah. The state of New Jersey, I guess, or Ocean County, they have it's called the Joint Insurance Fund, GIF Fund. And if we build this, there's actually a 5-page guideline specifically for skate parks. That if we stay within the construction, it goes right into that insurance thing. So it really has minimal impact to our insurance as a borough.
Anybody on Zoom like to speak to this? Oh, sorry, Mr. Alpern?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kitty.
Oh, hang on.
Did you want to speak to this, Kitty?
Thank you.
State your name and address for my recording.
Catherine Snyder, 120 Berkeley Avenue. I couldn't hear exactly what you were saying, Dan. I think I know what you were saying, and I thank you for your clarification, but I definitely have many concerns about the skate park, and I know that this is just an appropriation of funds, and it doesn't mean that we have to spend it, but if it looks like it and it sounds like it, I think from a public perspective and for myself, I think it seems that we're willing to put the money out there if we need to. When this came up, we were told that the borough would not pay 1 penny for this. It all had to be fundraised. And I will not vote for this if we have to pay for it. We couldn't get the borough to put $20,000 into Veterans Park for beautification and improvements. And here we are appropriating over $300,000. That doesn't make sense to me. I have many concerns. I'm not against skating. My kids skate, my son skates. That's not what it's about. I think it's the cost is prohibitive. I have safety concerns, policing concerns, the location of it right now in an area where we have 400 kids a night in the summer. I don't know how that's such a bigger burden on our police force. There's just many concerns, and I just think we need to take a really strong look at this and make sure that we know what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Halpin.
John Halprin, 319 Fairview Avenue, Beach Haven. I agree with Kitty. I have a lot of concerns about the skate park. The last meeting where this was talked, there was 3 concept documents talked about. And we haven't even agreed on what concept it's going to be. Is it going to be all for kids? If it's all for kids, I'm all for it. It helps something for them to do, get them off the street, blah, blah, blah. But is in the construction of it, is it going to be pervious coverage? So we could address the flooding situation in that area. We don't know those answers to those questions. Not only that, according to this, it's replacing the acquisition of 2 trolleys, which originally was approved by council on a vote of 4-1. And my understanding, when the trolley system was being introduced, it would have the support of the business community. Bay Village, Brian Wainwright, I think Mr. Steiner was also involved. In fact, they went so far as to even have draw up a proposed route of where the trolleys would go. Has the business community been informed of this? Has there been transparency where they know that what they thought was going to be a trolley system is no longer going to be in play? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions to this that really concerns me, and that I think we really need. We're going to do something like this. We just need greater transparency. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we'll close the floor to public comment. Is there a motion to approve 2022-24?
So moved.
Is there a second?
By you, ma'am? Yes.
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
No.
Ordinance 2022-25, bond ordinance authorizing renovations and improvements to the Emergency Operations Center by and for the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, appropriating $3 million therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,855,000 bonds or notes to finance part of the cost thereof. Final reading.
Final reading, so it's open to the public. Anybody in the room like to speak to this? Deb?
Deb Whitcraft, 528 Dock Road. Just like Lori asked about the last bond ordinance, what's the breakdown of this $3 million?
I don't have this construction cost estimates with me, but we did review them. I can provide them to you.
See, the problem is this 4 pages of this ordinance for $3 million. Nowhere in these 4 pages does it talk about what this $3 million is going to do and for what purpose. And I think the lack of transparency in asking for adoption on second reading of such an ordinance is wrong to the taxpayers of Beach Haven. I think we have a right to know why you're bonding $2.85 million of a $3 million project to the EOC without any information to the people who are footing the bill for this.
We won't go beyond renovations and improvements.
Yeah, but you're not,
Renovations and improvements.
where did you find this $3 million figure? Did you just pull it out of the air?
We had an engineer provide construction cost estimates.
But we don't know what's being constructed. That's the problem.
The renovations to the existing facility. There's no major changes being done. It's renovations to the existing program of the building.
Okay, but for what purpose are these renovations being made?
Same as it's been. Those are dormitory rooms. That is a common area. That is a parking lot. That is sidewalks. That is generator platforms. Everything that is existing will be renovated and put back the way it was. So
But who will be occupying this housing?
that is irrelevant to what the
It is-
renovations.
It is not irrelevant because our first aid squad, our police, our fire company, emergency management, lifeguards, most specifically, the employees of the Borough of Beach Haven have long needed affordable housing so that we can fill the ranks. Our police department was so shorthanded with less than half of the SLEOs that we needed. So unless these renovations to the tune of $3 million are being done solely for housing for borough employees, fire, police, EMS, I don't know why we would spend such a huge amount of money. We are hurting so bad for members. I can't stress enough the seriousness to public safety. Jim and I are going away this Saturday for a week on a cruise. For 1 full week, you have no drivers or EMTs to answer first aid calls. So I hope nobody's having a stroke or a heart attack while we're gone, because there's nobody to answer it, because people can't afford to live here. The sole purpose of that EOC site should be to house borough employees, firemen, first aid squad members, both drivers and EMTs. I'm an EMT, but the ambulance doesn't move without a driver. So to do anything less than make this facility housing for people in the field of public safety is an affront to the taxpayers of Beach
Building
Haven.
must be used for emergency management purposes, so there can be nothing besides that. And like I said, they are dormitory spaces for emergency response purposes. Sounds like we're on the same page.
Well, I hope we are, but I think that the taxpayers deserve to have more specifics. This $3 million figure just wasn't pulled out of the air, and there's just not enough transparency. If in fact the EOC is going to be used for that purpose, emergency management, fire, police, EMS, lifeguards, then I'm 100% in favor of it.
We're just trying to get all the toilets working, get an elevator in, get the heating up.
The sad thing is, it may be too late. It may be too late for EMS. I'm just letting you know that. We answer 1,200 calls a year. Over 500 of them are in Beach Haven alone. We are in dire straits. We met with Commissioner Latanzi today. They are agreeing to provide some housing for our EMTs and EMS workers, as well as our firemen at the building that they bought across from the Acme supermarket, but it's not enough. And if we don't address this issue now with the use of the EOC, our town and the other towns that we cover are in dire straits with regard to EMS calls. I just want you to know that.
Deb, thank you. I mean, we do appreciate what you've done, and I don't dispute it for 1 second. That is absolutely the purpose of what we're trying to do here. I went down and I was like the second group to go through, and apparently between the first time we were down there, what was it, May? And then you had been down the year before. Even the gentleman who was with us was like, he couldn't believe how much it deteriorated. We're talking the outside windows are leaking. I mean, almost every aspect of that building needs some kind of work done. We want to get it done as fast as possible. We want to help. I don't know what else we can do at this point.
Thank you.
Mhm. Pardon? I don't think that would be, that'd be, yeah. See?
Steve Steiner, 521B Amber Street in Beach Haven. I certainly agree with what Deb is saying, and so I would implore the council to actually not just appropriate this money to get this work done, which obviously is very important, but proactively create a plan for what's going to be used, what that facility is going to be used for down there, having to help the EMTs and the fire and the police, especially the summer cops. As you know, at Surflight Theater, we have housing for a lot of people that work there because we don't have people with the skill set we need to do the best possible work that we can without housing them. And I think that's where we are with all of this emergency help, including the lifeguards that we need. You need housing to be able to attract them so that you can have a fully staffed all of these various departments. We have housing for 55 over there at Surflight. We wouldn't be able to do what we do at the skill level that we do without that housing. And I think you're in the same boat here. You need to bring those skilled people in, and you need to proactively create the plan of what you're going to do with that housing down there, rather than just fix it and then, okay, now we're going to see what's next. Proactively create the plan before the work even gets done, please.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Hudson?
Yeah, hi, Mayor. Bill Hudson, Lorries Island and Motel. As I've testified before, I have a number of calls from your people in Beach Haven that live here and say they can't afford to live here. Certainly the EMS, fire, I'm not going to get into. If you want to talk to me afterwards, I'll tell you who all is calling me, but I don't want to really embarrass anybody. But certainly what Deb says is absolute nightmare when your people are calling us to try to get housing to live at our place out of your town to do this. I think you do need to be more specific and say, we are going to house, which I haven't heard tonight exactly. You're sort of around the subject a little bit, you and Sherry, but I think we're all on the same page that you're going to house these emergency people. Is that true or not?
Yes,
Thank
that is
you.
our goal.
Okay.
But as I said before, and I think everybody here understands, but in case you don't, there is a deed restriction on that property. And it was deeded to us for $1 from the government, and it may only be used for emergency personnel. Now, that can include EMTs, fire, first aid, lifeguards, water rescue.
I think,
But we can't just say, if you are a Beach Haven employee, come on down. We can't do that. If you see that, I mean, the kitchen, that's going to be a huge, it's really a shame, but that place has gone into a state of disrepair, and we do not want to just give it up. So that's what we're trying to do. But we need to start. And, as far as the transparency goes, I don't know what more to tell you. If you want to supply what the builder gave us, fine, but this thing is going to be a lot of money to repair, and that is our number one goal. The chief was telling us not too long ago, he lost 2 employees this summer because they couldn't afford to either live here and didn't want to make the drive, and one was in an accident. We are doing everything we can. This is our first step.
I agree.
It's like people think that we're trying to pull an end run down there or something. We're not.
Well, I certainly agree, but I am going to add, we've been talking about this since 2015. So this is 7 years. So I'd like to see this get passed tonight. Thank you very much.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, there's no one else? Is there a motion to approve 2022-25?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller.
Yes.
Dr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford. Yes. Mayor Lambert.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-28C, an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Police Department, opting into the examination exemption provided by the Civil Service Commission, hiring procedures for Class 2 officers. And the purpose is to exempt the Beach Haven Police from civil service competitive testing in some instances and allow the hiring of existing Class 2 officers who have completed basic training. Final reading.
Anybody like to speak to this one? No? Anybody on Zoom?
No.
Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve 2022-28C?
Second.
Yeah, you did skip 26.
Okay, I'll go right back
Yeah.
to that. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-26, bond ordinance authorizing various borough-wide water main system improvements, Phase 2, by the water utility in and for the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, appropriating $2,400,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,400,000 bonds or notes to finance part of the cost thereof. Final reading.
Okay, again, open to the public, final reading. Anybody in the room? No? Anybody on Zoom?
No.
No? Is there a motion to approve 2022-26?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-29C, an ordinance amending Chapter 199, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 10, Schedules, in the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey. The purpose is to prohibit parking on the north side of Second Street from Bay Avenue east, and that should say 85 feet, from the hours of 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. First reading.
I'd like to make, I think, I think this is a good ordinance. I think it's gonna help the people that live on Second Street.
Yes, put your microphone in a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's gonna help the people on Second Street, but I don't know why we need to leave this open. We need to use 4 p.m. as the ending date. After the discussion we had last time, John Ruckner, who ran Murphy's for years, got up and he said, you have some control over the delivery times, and you can tell a deliverer that they have to deliver by a certain hour, or you can find somebody else to deliver the goods. And I think because it is such a busy street and people do lunch there, I think it would be better to make the time something like noon instead of 4 o'clock. It still gives you plenty of time for deliveries. I'd like to understand the rationale behind using 4.
Well, we were tasked with polling the businesses in the area. So code enforcement went out and polled the businesses in the area and asked what the window was that they received the most deliveries, and this was the window. I'm sure that whatever the council's prerogative is, they will adjust. But this is what the consensus was amongst the polling that we did.
I would think, I mean, and I don't have any reason not to believe John, that it's probably easier for, the only business we're really concerned about on that block is the chicken and the egg. I think maybe Buckaloo's as well, because they get some deliveries on the other side, but I think if they're firm, and say, we want these deliveries done earlier, I think it would make it a lot easier for everybody not to have these deliveries coming in till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it can be done. Again, I don't know how many deliveries they get every day. I know that Chegg has put in a lot of refrigeration and that sort of thing to probably cut down on the deliveries. But I'd just be curious to know why we need to go to 4.
Did you want to come up, Jim?
Nancy, I just wanted to explain the 4 o'clock window, that we chose that because if we try to get them to deliver between 6 and noon, you're going to, again, you might be able to get some of these deliveries to get down here from that time, but then they're going to start stacking up again. And we're trying to avoid is making them stack up down Second Street. the idea is if we block off that area till 4, they really don't get busy until, I mean, they're, in and out all day long, but they don't really get a rush until dinner time. And that was why we chose that time. We certainly don't want to try to cram everybody in 6 hours and have deliveries, delivery trucks waiting like the problem we're having now. So, and the other thing is Station 114, 117, whatever, that they also get deliveries on that side. And usually what happens is it gets congested. So if we take those 3 parking spots and during those hours, make it only for delivery vehicles, we can get 2 side by side. They won't stick out much further than the white lines are now, and it'll be a lot more organized.
Okay, I mean, it would be nice to hear from the residents that live up there as well. But I mean, I'm certain that we could do it this way and see how it goes, and maybe there's a chance if most people deliver earlier that we can shorten it.
I'm going by a lot of the information I'm getting from my day shift guys who answer all these complaints. There's times pretty much from 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. There's trucks in and out of that area all day long. So
I see, I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't even go up there.
And then they're over on 3rd Street also, because
Yeah.
that's where we've been trying to push them over to on 3rd Street, which is, it was making even more of a problem because of the traffic light over there.
That's what you said last time, so that makes sense. All right,
I thought this was a great idea when we first talked about it, but I've gotten some phone calls from businesses who say, why are you giving preferential treatment to a business that has already received more than their fair share of grace from the borough? And I explained that, I wasn't looking at it that way. I was looking at it as this was a plus for the neighbors because I think that street is beleaguered. But I would not mind tabling this, and I would like to hear, we heard from Mr. Wachter, and I thought that was very good, and I thought maybe he was representative, but I think maybe if we do hear from a couple more of the neighbors, that this is absolutely a positive thing for Second Street. I mean, I thought it was.
I did too.
Yeah, okay, and that might be, yeah, right, so that might be very helpful. So,
Mayor, can I read something from the neighbors about this that was submitted to me?
all right. Does anybody else on the council have anything they want to jump in on this before we go to the,
I think it helps all the businesses in the area. It also offsets the traffic and the nightmare that it creates for the people who live on that street. Excuse me. I understand it looks like we're giving preferential treatment to the CHEG, but you also have Station 117. You have restaurants that are looking to open across the street. There could be deliveries done across the street that there'd be a delivery zone for that general area. So I'm flexible on the time, maybe compromise 6 to 2. I do think 4 is pretty late for that area. It gets congested, depending on, weather and things like that in the summertime. And we're talking about 10 weeks out of the year. I think this would be very beneficial.
I agree. I thought it was going to help the neighbors, not be adverse to them, because the rule is that they can't park in front of the neighbors' homes, and that's been a problem. And the fact that there are 2 trucks there, when we talked about it, they would be right back to back, and they wouldn't be extending into the residential area. I think we have an ordinance already that says that you can't pull a truck in front of a residential area, although it isn't enforced. This would make it easier for people to do. So to me, I'm more concerned about the residents than anybody else. I mean, I live on Second Street. So I don't know. I mean, is it appropriate to read something? I know we don't allow comments in the land use board from people that aren't there.
You can just let the council finish speaking first, and then we'll open it up.
My first thought when this came up was, this is really a problem created by the expansion, chicken or the egg, call it expansion. I still scratch my head on how that came to pass, but the fact is, it happened, and now the neighbors are dealing with it. So it's not a good situation. I thought this was not really to benefit The chicken or the egg, I thought this was a benefit to neighbors, to get the diesel complaint that they came to the doors of. Even if the house was lost. The trucks up the road. You know, Mr. John, Walker from Murphy said, you can do a dictate to these companies when you want these deliveries to be made. So I think there is some control there. I mean, I didn't look at it as giving away anything to the chicken and the egg. The game is on the cat's out back. I mean, it's up to us, as somebody said at the last meeting, to clean up and mess that was me. So I thought this was an acceptable first step. I was hoping for the neighbors, but I am interested to hear if they have recommendations, solutions, or against, because it is them that we are trying to benefit. You're not there making a mistake.
Right.
So.
I agree with you, but,
Yeah.
you know, that they should never allow that expansion, there's a change in use.
Yeah, but regardless of the expansion too, there's always a problem there. It's always-
There was, you're absolutely right,
So,
the expansion made it worse.
exactly, we're trying to come up with solutions, and we had this on the last agenda meeting, just as a discussion. There were some residents that we were talking openly about a solution. This was a solution. It's a public safety issue. We're trying to somehow help the quality of life on Second Street. So I would like to hear, I see 2 residents right now on Second Street that I would very much be interested in see what they have to say and weigh into this too, because this is for them. This is not for the chicken or the egg. Regardless, they're going to get the deliveries. So this is a way to improve quality of life for those residents. But if they feel differently, I'm very interested in hearing.
Shall we?
Did you say you had from residents? Do you want to do the room first?
Sherry wanted me to wait until the council had.
I think I heard from everyone.
Good?
All right, yeah.
Yeah. wanna-
We might have to leave some.
We're not called out. It's not a life-threatening incident.
Mr. Berkeley, hold on just one moment. I'll get to you.
This is
Thank
from the
you.
neighbors in the area, the Chegg, Deb, Whitcraft, 528 and all that stuff. And this was sent to me by email and they asked that I read it. So it says at tonight's borough meeting, the ordinance closing Second Street is on the agenda. There are residents who have contacted me because the street is part of the historic district. Their concerns are, number one, they are under the impression that the Chegg needs it closed to speed up their deliveries. These aren't my words. Number two, how many other stores and residents would like their streets closed for their businesses? 3, does the closing from the boulevard to 75 feet include weekends? 4, so the Chegg doubled their occupancy. Now they're now are closing street parking. Where are the customers and help going to park? I guess in front of the houses on Second Street. Number 5, since when were businesses permitted to store supplies? And this is a serious public safety issue if it's true. Since when were businesses permitted to store supplies? Placement of ice machines and freezers in the alley, which is a fire access road. So I'm hoping if this is true, this is serious.
It is not.
Okay. Number 6, the 200 block of Second is one of the narrowest streets, and now this ordinance will have a great impact on the residents and the town. Number 7, why is this street being chosen to close when 2 months ago you doubled the occupancy of the Chegg? These concerns are from taxpayers and residents in the vicinity of Third Street, and it was sent to me by Jeanette Lloyd.
I got to say.
All right, but I mean, I think she's raised, and the people in that area have raised some legitimate concerns. And once you give this to one business owner, what's to stop all the other business owners from saying, hey, I want.
You're not closing the street. I think that the misconception is you're not closing the street. That you're taking out 3 parking spots that have been used for pickup. And that the trucks can pull close to the curb so people can get out on the street.
It's not the residents' fault that they don't have any parking. They should not have to pay the price for the failure of a business owner to have any off-street parking.
I agree. I spoke against this as a spectator at the land use board meeting.
But Dan,
And this happened. But we're trying to fix something that happened and make it better for the residents. If this doesn't make it better for the residents, then fine. The street isn't being closed down, and the 3 parking spaces that are being taken away in the hours when they really aren't being used are for pickup anyway.
Deb, what I would ask is, because I know at the land use board, you're not allowed to read letters or anything else. Could you just give us the names of the people who signed into that? Thank you.
You probably have people there who.
I do know, I see Second Street neighbors, but I mean, just, for the sake of transparency, thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Mr. Brooklyn, go ahead, state your name and address for the record.
Craig Berkland, 215 Second Street.
Go ahead.
So I guess my point is the CHEG over the last probably 4 years since it was sold to the new owner is probably 3 times the size what it was when it was sold. And I get the point about Station 117, that's a big business, and Buckaloo's, but it's different in the sense that the CHEG is a low per ticket item, but high volume. I'll bet the CHEG has more volume than McDonald's on 72nd, Route 72. So the business essentially is too big for its current location. And I have a driveway, right? So, I don't have issues with parking, and I sympathize with those who do, and I agree with it, but it's not the parking so much as it's the 18-wheelers that roll in from the Garden State Parkway multiple times a day with the refrigeration units going nonstop. This is not an industrial area. It's not right. I mean, if you want to create a loading zone, it should be on the boulevard right in front of the CHEG. And I just think all these problems are the result of too many variances being granted to this business, because now it's got Lorenzo's. I mean, all the, it's, I don't know, it's just too big for its spot. And we can't have semis unloading on Second Street 4 or 5 times a day. It's just not right. It should be on, if it's going to happen, it should be on the boulevard.
Thank you. Nancy Pepino. You have to unmute yourself, Nancy.
Okay.
State your
there you
name
go.
and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Nancy Pepino. I live at 223 Second Street in Beach Haven, and I happen to be right in back of the CHEG. I am neighbors to the CHEG. I'm living here on Second Street about 7 years. I never would have signed up to buy this property and to have a house built if I knew that this was going to happen and the town was not going to protect its residents. The town has given the CHEG an inordinate amount of variances and the ability to grow and expand without taking care of some of these issues like parking, delivery, the staff parking. I know the owner has said, and the manager has said to the staff that they really should park further down towards the ocean and east of Second Street. However, I sit and I watch 27, 28-year-old kids parking right in front of my house. I have to park all the way down the street when I have to come home with my groceries. This isn't right. This isn't right. The town has forgotten its residents in this instance. Clearly, the CHEG really is only concerned about making money and how much money it's going to make without regard to the residents and the people who live on Second Street. I see the stuff that's parked in that fire hazard, that fire zone that's supposed to be accessible to ambulances and fire trucks. It's storage racks, it's garbage bins. It's deplorable. I'm surprised the ambulance and the fire department hasn't come and given them citations. It's the health safety risk. It's violating the health safety code. Why isn't someone doing something about it? It's scary.
Thank you,
I'm
Nancy.
an ex-emergency room nurse. Minutes count, seconds count when there's an emergency. I can't believe that they're getting away with this. It's a travesty. Why double your occupancy if you can't take care of it? Why don't they have deliveries in Manhattan? They have deliveries at night. Have your deliveries 4 to 6 a.m. in the morning? Why is the check making their problem our problem? And why are we even taking time with council meetings trying to solve this problem? It's the check's problem, not ours.
Thank you,
They have to
Nancy.
be held accountable.
Thank you. Linda Tasillo?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, state your name and address for the record.
Okay, just want to make sure you heard me. Linda Tasillo, 205 Second Street in Beach Haven. I'm surprised that losing parking spaces on quite a main street would even be a consideration. Parking has always been very important in Beach Haven. Second Street already has to deal with the customers and the employees of the Chegg, Station 117, even the Gables and the Crate Place, customers and employees park on Second Street. I sit on my porch in the morning and I watch people get out of the cars all day long and go to these places. Even waitresses and waitresses park on these streets as well. So I'm concerned losing parking spots is just going to be detrimental to our houses on Second Street. As far as I understand, there's a driveway in back of the Chegg, which is accessible from Third Street. I'm not sure why are they not using this driveway for their deliveries. I do, as Craig mentioned, I do witness tractor trailers making U-turns early in the morning on the corner of Second and Beach, which is already a hazardous intersection as it is because there isn't a four-way stop sign. And my last concern is, will this set a precedence for other restaurants that will want a loading zone? Will Pearl Street Market next ask for some spots on Pearl Street? How will the residents there like that? Will Uncle Will's next try to get 75 feet of parking space on Center Street next? This is going to set a precedence with restaurants in the town. And as the mayor even asked tonight to Mr. Pagnott about parking was an issue with his, residential area he wants to build. So parking is a problem, and I'm shocked that this would even be a consideration to lose parking places.
Parking spaces will not be eliminated, Ms. Casella. I'm just letting you know they will be available and open for parking from 4 p.m. until 6 a.m. There'll only be no parking from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then they will be available from 4 p.m. on. Just wanted to clarify.
Can we just also clarify?
You're using the words only? You're using the words only from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.? That's a greater part of the day. People also park, I forgot to mention, people park on the street to go up to the beaches as well. So parking is a problem in Beach Haven, and to lose parking places is just shocking to me that this would even be a consideration.
All right, thank you.
I just want to clarify that the area behind the chicken or the egg is not a fire lane. It's not. It's a driveway easement. So it is. If you look at the tax maps and it confirms with the fire chief that it's not a fire lane. It's a driveway easement that was with the 3 lots. The corner Lorenzo's, chicken or the egg, and that little, where the expansion was. It was a 3 driveway easement to allow each property owner to cross over in the driveway. It is not a fire lane. And that driveway easement ends at the realtor. You cannot cross through. That's their property. You cannot go on Third Street and go across the back driveway where the real estate agent is and get to the chicken or the egg, because you're going on someone's private property. The chicken or the egg owns those 3 lots, so they own that driveway. It is not a fire lane. You double check.
That's where their truck should be unloading them.
It's not wide enough.
It's not wide enough for a big truck.
No.
Fire truck.
Anyone else wish to be heard on this ordinance? We gotta move forward.
I would.
Catherine, go ahead.
Catherine Snyder, 120 Berkeley. I know the intention here is to help our neighbors on Second Street, and I applaud that. I agree with that, but I think that it has a bit of a can of worms, and I think the residual of this is going to be that more businesses are going to be asking for mitigation for their loading zones, and that's understandable. I think it begs to be looked into, and I think, again, go back to the chicken or the egg owners who will be the big beneficiary here, and find out, what their delivery schedule is. How can they make it before we just solve a problem for them? I think it's not just, I think you're right in that I feel terrible for the people that live near there. I do, but I think that, maybe we should step back and talk to all the neighbors as you also mentioned. Thank you.
And I also just want to point out too, that the chief of police is asking for some help in relief of the area. This is an enforcement problem. They deal with a lot of complaints. He has come forward with these suggestions. He's supported this initiative from the beginning to ease the problem.
So real quick, the reason why we did this is to get the vehicles so they're not stopping up in the residential part and they're not blocking the intersection. But we do this for a lot of different businesses in town, including Mrs. Boker. She has a couple parking spots that are the curbside pickup spots. And when they're not being used in the early part of the day, that's where we direct all of her delivery vehicles to go on the wrong side of the road, park in the yellow zone in front of those 2 spots to unload, because it's the safest spot. We allow Murphy's, Buckaloo's, all the restaurants between Center and Ingleside. We allow them to go park down the center, the double yellow line, over at Schooner's Wharf. There's exceptions almost everywhere in town for Pearl Street. We allow them to park illegally there. We direct them to what area is going to be the safest spot for them to park delivery trucks, because if you're not going to get the deliveries, you're going to make it more difficult. We just try to ease it in and ease it out so that it has less impact. And this area is an area where we've had a lot of issues with cars, delivery vehicles stacking up down the block, and we're trying to get them away from that area. And hopefully the thought is that if we stretch it out from 6 to 4, if you want to do it from 6 to 2, that's up to you guys. But if you stretch it out and you start organizing them and they have an actual place where they can park, we can't do it on the boulevard. It's with the bicyclists, with the being a county road, it's just not going to happen. The angle at that speed, that's not going to work out on the boulevard. And maybe in the middle of the night, but if somebody suggested having deliveries take place like they do in New York in the middle of the night, I think people would scream. They get very angry about trash trucks coming before 6. I know change the ordinance a little bit so it's easier for us to enforce, but if a trash truck shows up at 5:50, we get phone calls. I can't imagine what would happen if the echoing of those refrigerator trucks and the tailgates dropping at 3 o'clock in the morning, people would lose their minds.
It seems to me that we have a lot of back and forth on this. and it's November. And I don't think this is going to be an issue for a few months. So my recommendation personally is, why don't we table it and see if we can get some of these groups together. Like I said, I thought this was a good idea, but apparently there are others who have a lot of concerns. And I think we have time to talk about it, just see. We're going to make everybody happy? Absolutely not. But let's see if there's something maybe we can come up with. That's my recommendation.
Since we haven't made any formal action on it yet, if we just hear from all of you that you don't want to introduce it tonight, then that's what we can do.
I agree, I don't think we should have this tonight. We're not in one.
Right.
That's fine.
Okay, so really since we do have a new council starting in January, we're unable to straddle the calendar year with an ordinance, so if you don't introduce it by the next meeting in November, it will not be introduced until the next calendar year, so.
I think that's probably the best idea.
Understand.
Yeah.
I think it gives maybe the neighbors to get together and come up with some ideas. They're saying otherwise it's just gonna stay the way it is. I like the idea of having the deliveries made early in the morning on Bay Avenue, but that's a county road and apparently that's not feasible. So I don't know what other, it seemed to me this was a better thing for the residents, but maybe it's not. I think they should have a major input into this.
You know, as you listen to it, I mean, the frustration over what was given to the CHEG. And that seems to be the crux of the matter. Unfortunately, that didn't come from us. That came from a different governing body, and we can't do anything about it. So now we've got to move forward. And I'm willing to sit down, but I think it should be in the new year.
Ordinance 2022-30C, an ordinance amending Chapter 90 fees, Article 1, land use development fees in the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to increase the required escrow deposits for land use board applications, first reading.
Okay, no public comments since it is first reading. Basically, we found out our fees were not making it. They weren't even covering our expenses, so this is an effort to get them up to snuff. Is there a motion to approve? Excuse me, does anybody else on the council wish to say anything about this? No? Okay, is there a motion to approve the 2022-30C?
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-31, ordinance authorizing execution of a lease agreement between the Borough of Beach Haven, Volunteer Fire Company Number 1, and the Borough of Beach Haven for Block 1, Lots 3, 4, and 5. The purpose is to allow the fire company to relocate their water rescue operations to the existing EOC in its current condition. First reading.
Okay, as a first reading, there is no public comment. Anybody on the council like to make a comment?
I think this is a step in the right direction to justify the $2 million. We have been discussing ways to use that building to potentially bully.
Yeah, I agree. No. Okay, is there a motion to approve 2022-31?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Resolution 213, returning park bonds, 214, returning remaining escrow, 225, returning piling bonds, 226 is approving change order number 1 for the 2022 purchase and installation of 3 Leland fire sirens. This is a no-cost time extension for contract completion. 227, returning dumpster bonds. 228, authorizing an executive session to discuss pending litigation and contract negotiations. And I'm also adding resolution 230 for budget transfers.
Okay, any questions, concerns, or comments about the items on the resolution agenda? No? If not, is there a motion to approve the resolutions within the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
yes,
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
I have a bill list this evening in the amount of $786,896.42.
Everybody have a chance to review the bills? Is there a motion to approve?
so moved,
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay, and if there's anything we haven't covered yet, it's now time for public comment, starting with the room. Please hold yourself to 3 minutes. Be sure to identify yourself. Anybody in the room? Lori?
Lori Anderson, 1001 West Avenue, Beach Haven. Now that we've approved $3 million to improve the EOC Center, which is going to house some EMT people, did I say right, EMT? EMS?
All emergency personnel.
Lifeguards, all them. Well, I think that might relieve the need to have this affordable housing on the corner of Fifth Street.
It's a whole different thing.
Well,
It's not, the state doesn't really
See it as that.
they're not gonna approve that is.
no, I'm not saying use, people get up here and say, oh, we need this, what do you call that, rehab stuff, because we need places for EMTs and
Well,
policemen
this
and-
is like temporary housing, it's not permanent. housing. So I mean, it's mostly for people that, maybe here in the summer. I mean, if somebody could probably stay there year round, but they're just getting a bed in a dorm type
Yeah.
setting with a common kitchen. They don't have, it's really, it's a real, and the state gives us guidelines for affordable housing and they expect different criteria to be met. And, that they wouldn't approve
Okay.
that.
well, it is a place for the emergency
But
people.
it'll
and
help our
lifeguards,
town.
And that's good.
That's the important.
I got here late. The picture that was over there, was that the drawing for the corner of Fifth Street where the gas station?
One was for Fifth and one was for Fourth.
Because the one that was here when I arrived about 6:15, it did look too big. They make it look real pretty. I'm sure it's an attractive building, but it looked really out of scale for the lot size. All right, that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Mr. Hudson?
Bill Hudson, Lori's Island Inn Motel. What Mr. Allen said about that project and others, it's the closest thing you're going to get. This is an economy where the land prices are going up, the housing prices are going up, everything's going up. These are going to be your best shots because I sat in Long Beach Township and listened to what they were talking about, and they took a number of deals that there was their best shots. I think this is your best shot. And I also think it's very unfair to compare this to Victoria Rose. I think as Mr. Allen said, Victoria Rose is 42 units. This is 24. Am I correct on it? 24? Is that right, Jamie? 23? 23? This is a totally different situation. For somebody to come up here and say this is overbuilt and compare it to Victoria Rose, it's just not even in the same ballpark. Now, coming back to this drawing, it looks big because it's on a small canvas, but this is like about half the size. And I have to emphasize that this is about half the size. I think it's going to be your best deal. You've got 2 eyesores. You can enhance the business district with the definite 1,000 square feet units and get some affordable housing. And I had to tell you one other thing. I have a call right now from somebody working in Murphy's. This is not for the EOC, but this person commutes from Medford to work at Murphy's. Our housing crisis is beyond difficult. It's beyond a crisis. Somebody commuting from Medford to work at Murphy's and keeps calling me and I don't have an opening. I have a waiting list of about 6 people to begin with, 6 rooms. I think this housing crisis is more than serious, as you're indicating.
Just out of curiosity, I know you live in Holgate. Do you ask the township to also provide affordable housing?
I have, and I talked with Mayor Mancini personally when he bought the Long Beach Inn. So the answer is yes. That's one of the reasons that came into effect is I did lobby for that project. And so
Which one?
the Long Beach, where he bought Long Beach Inn.
But that's for the lifeguards and.
Well, that took pressure off the town.
No, but I'm saying, we're talking, as Nancy pointed out, there are 2 different animals here.
I have no
And
problem.
we're addressing that, but I'm just saying, it's different. Right now, Beach Haven is the only town on the island that is, complying with this, that has been forced to comply with it. So it is 2 different animals. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. But we just have to make sure that we're talking apples and apples here.
I'm definitely talking, actually for approval of both avenues, to be honest with you. The housing crisis is that much. We need EOC for Debbie and the police and everybody else. And then we need other affordable housing for people trying to work here.
Right, but I'm saying if you went to all the other mayors and said, hey, because it would be a much quicker ride down the island, it would be from Medford. So, it's something you might want to consider. Well, we're aware of it. We're very aware of it.
I always
is
do
what I'm
listen
saying.
to, that. always listening.
Right, but I'm just saying,
But
we are
I-
certainly aware.
But my final comment is, this is your last best choice for those 2 projects.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, how about on Zoom?
Carl Anderson?
This last argument that we had about. the
Just
shed-
state your name and address for the recording.
Carl Anderson, 509 Center Street. I think this is looking at the window into the future. The article or the argument that we just had about Second Street, that's what's coming to Fifth and that's what's coming to Fourth if you allow these massive projects. As far as Mr. Luria's Island End, he has an awful lot to say about a town he doesn't live in. And I just think that, wasting so much time on all these arguments is a hard thing for our council to deal with. They have enough on their plates, and we need to focus on the issues that affect Beach Haven and the voters and citizens of Beach Haven, and let all the other stuff go away as noise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else on Zoom wish to be heard for public comment? You can raise an electronic hand or you can unmute yourself and state your name and address. Seeing none?
Seeing none, close the floor to public comment.
Comment?
Go ahead, Mr. Halpern.
John Halpern, 319 Fairview Avenue. I was just trying to listen to everything about the new development or redevelopment, whatever you want to call it. I think, as was alluded to, the business district is an asset to Beach Haven. We have to do all we can to maintain that asset.
John, take a step forward.
I'm sorry, to maintain that asset. I believe mixed use is the way to go in Beach Haven. It has so many positives. You have commercial, residential, commercial, restaurant, retail. You have a situation, as we all know, we had Fred's Diner, who no longer, which was changed to a candy store. And so we have a need. We have an unfilled need where the clientele for that diner is going elsewhere. So we have to do all we can to create this development. We need to work with our developers in a positive way, so it's affordable for them and it creates a win-win for us. So again, I would encourage, instead of just saying, all right, redevelopment or rehabilitation is not good for Beach Haven because it's an overdevelopment. Let's try to work with them to have some intelligent development in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else? No. Seeing none, we're going to close the floor to public comment. And we will now break for executive session.
Yes, we're gonna break for executive session. I anticipate we'll be in executive session about 45 minutes. No formal action will be taken and no formal action will be taken when we reconvene in a public session either. Thank you.
Hey, Dan. I know I need to get my vote out. I'm just, anytime. Yeah. No, hey. Trying to make sure you get stuck in a hurricane.
I saw you a little bit, expected to say.
That's fine. You're good. You're good. I just want to.
What?
What? What?
That's what I was.
Yeah.
So I need to pay your picture.
That's good.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm really not. Hey, no. Oh, everybody go.
Michelle. Yeah, right now, my kids are like, where are you?
Yeah, Robbie's Chicken Shack is closed by now.
Where is everybody? Why did they stick around?
All right, we're gonna reconvene the public session at 8:52 PM.
Okay, we're to final remarks by council. Mr. Allen.
Sure, I'd like to congratulate Katie and Jamie on losing the election last week. Yeah, I will. I feel the town's in good hands going forward. Never have anything to say but tonight. That's all I.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to Mrs. Ballmiller.
Yeah, I'm keeping this quick. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and voting, and I look forward to serving you for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Nancy.
Thank you all for being here tonight and helping us make decisions. And I want to say what a nice day Veterans Day was. It was not really a nice day climate-wise, but it was a very nice ceremony. Our mayor made a very good speech. And they did a nice job holding it inside. And that's about all I have to say. I was the only one available because everybody else had plans. And it's kind of sad that the school shuts down.
Well, it was off.
Convention
It was
week.
an off week, yeah.
I
It's
know,
convention
I know, it was. But anyway,
I know.
thank you all.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you to Kitty and Jamie for your reelection. I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving coming up because we'll be here before we know it. Thankful to have this opportunity to serve our community here. And I just hope everyone else considers serving the community the way that we all do here on council.
You changed it. You were going to do this.
Oh, and remember that the Cacklers is doing their Dashing Through Beach Haven November 25th and 26th, which is Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. They'll be doing that from 4 to 6 p.m. And the holiday badges are for sale, and it's a pretty cute design.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you again. Wanted to congratulate Jamie and Kitty. Looking forward to working with them. And happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
There we go.
So moved.
Bye.